I know words. I have the best words.
This is All the Best Words with Matt Murphy and Cameron Smith.
Instruction, and I'm like, oh, great. So that's wonderful. So it's not bad, but
They whacked you.
it is what it is. I'm not very happy with you right now.
Why?
I'm going to go ahead and talk about this.
No, let's go.
While we get started with all the best words, hello,
Sure.
everyone. We'll get to the words in a moment. My name's Matt Murphy. I'm going to say all the mean words to Cameron.
My name's Cameron Smith, and I would write it, but you wouldn't know the difference.
So apparently Cameron was in a store. He is well aware of my love of Dolly Parton. And he was in the baking aisle, I guess.
It was the frozen goods.
Frozen goods. And he saw Dolly Parton's biscuit batter, peach cobbler flavor.
Mm-hmm.
You understand how many of those words I love?
Yes.
Dolly and Parton and biscuit and batter and peach, all of them.
That's
I
literally
love all. Those are all the best words.
all the best words right there.
And I'm like, awesome. You saw me. You thought of me.
Mm-hmm.
You saw this.
Yep.
You took a picture.
I did.
You sent it to me.
Mm-hmm.
And when we got here, I was like, ooh, where's my Dolly Parton peach cobbler biscuit batter?
Well, alas, it was frozen, and I was not going home. Otherwise, I would have procured it for you. But I suspect it's at a grocery store near you.
Likely store. It's not the same thing.
I know. I
Would
need
have
to
been
be
a nice
thoughtful.
little. Would have been a nice little gift. All right, you went first last time, I think, on episode 52.
Your turn.
Well, I get to go first, too. Obviously, we're still covering a lot of the aftermath of the assassination of Charlie Kirk, which those words coming out of my mouth seem very odd. But I'm going to do a little bit more of a continuation of that theme. And my word is WHAT-ABOUT-ISM, which is a word that I've been familiar with for some time. I've never really cared for it. I think it's perfectly acceptable in normal discussion to compare events of today of events of yesterday, and to make these comparisons seems natural in terms of the dialogue. But I'm getting a little bit sick of the nature of the mainstream media, that they're desperate. And I think it's because some of this destroys their narrative, that they want you to believe that this level of violence only occurs when it is politically oriented from, quote, right-wingers.
Right.
So they're now desperate to seemingly change the subject. So much so, they're talking to us about this Minnesota senator, the Speaker of the House, I guess, in the state of Minnesota. They're talking to us about all of these other instances of political violence that they point to. They're pointing us to this study from the Anti-Defamation League, which I bothered to go look up, right? And this is the most egregious example. So many of us are shocked and dismayed that Charlie Kirk was assassinated.
Yes.
And we are rightly saying we need to get to the motivations of this person. And while we are not detracting from the obvious nature of what happened, that the person responsible for this is the person that pulled the trigger, we also want to know if he was inspired by anyone else, if he was inspired by any political motivation. What was his motive and what was the inspiration? And in all of this, embedded in all of this, is this discussion about left-wing versus right-wing violence. And I'm hearing all of these, alphabet soup networks talk about the Anti-Defamation League study that says, the vast majority of political violence occurs from right-wingers. And so I went and looked at the study. And I thought about you, because I thought this would be something that Cameron Smith would do. Let's go to the source material and see.
Let's actually
Let's
understand
actually
what
read
we're
the
talking
thing.
about.
Let's actually read the thing. And these cases from 2024 that they're citing are ludicrous. Some of them are obvious and political in nature. Others are just anti-government people that they automatically label as right-wing.
Right.
Like they did it with Timothy McVeigh too, Cameron. They're like, Timothy McVeigh was a right-winger because he was anti-government. Well, Timothy McVeigh was attempting to make a statement about the Iraq War.
Right.
And, I mean, so I don't understand how that was necessarily a right-wing thing. But I examined some of this. One of the case studies that they cite as an example of right-wing violence was a father and son that got into a heated argument in their home, and the son shot and killed the father. And because the son had extremist tattoos, And because the father told him that he was going to have to turn himself in for something that he did, like a burglary, they said that it was right-wing political violence.
Well, the extremist tattoos. I want to know.
I think one of them was an SS tattoo.
Oh, cool.
So that's
Super weird.
So, I mean, they're not even comparing the same things. And I get to the point where I'm asking, why can't we just talk about the thing that happened without referring to other things that happened to try to detract away from or deflect away from the thing? The thing that happened is pretty clear. The motives, while we don't have the full picture, we're getting a pretty good picture about the motive of the shooter, who was radicalized based on his belief about what Charlie Kirk was about.
Mm-hmm.
That sadly was a narrative that had been regurgitated by many in the mainstream media. Why can't we just do that and be done with it?
I agree with you. I think the challenge here is it's kind of all over the place in our politics of these non sequiturs where somebody says something. Kash Patel just did one where he's like, we are actively combating human trafficking at the FBI, so we don't have to release the Epstein files. Well, those don't follow, right? We're talking about two different things. Same here. Like, Charlie Kirk was assassinated. Like, the Minnesota House Speaker, like, we heard about that. We digested that. We talked about that. To say, well, I mean, really, don't you think these things balance? Like, or something to that effect is
and
weird.
The truth of the matter is, and this is no disrespect to Melissa Hortman, I think her name was. No one knew who that was outside of Minnesota. No one.
Right.
I mean, so to suggest that these two things are comparable is ridiculous on its face. Is it wrong? Of course it's wrong. So you're asking, well, why weren't, flags lowered to half staff, or why didn't this happen or that happen after she died? Because nobody knew who she was on the front
I just don't get why apparently a lot of people care a lot about whether the violence is left or right. I'm like, this is a person who shot and murdered a father and a husband in cold blood.
Right.
What their politics are is, immaterial to me, because he basically, what we're getting the indication is, I don't like what Charlie Kirk said. Therefore, I decided to kill him. Okay. Like, that's not okay. Fill in the blank with whatever the politics and thing are. That's not okay wherever it comes from. And then to say, well, but look at all of these other incidences. Can't we just all agree that everybody is guilty of this? And the answer is, well, no. Like, there's a bunch of weirdos who have done bad things, and we need to understand what's making them weird enough to kill. Because my concern is the trend line of the behavior. Like, if we keep this up, and then it's, well, they killed Charlie Kirk, somebody has to go kill somebody else.
Right.
I mean, let's just stop and let's not do this.
One thing that I've noticed, there's a growing concern, and I get it, and we've talked about it, that by using language that is primarily used on the left, we're ultimately if you call someone Hitler enough,
Right.
then if a deranged person hears that enough, why in the hell would you not want to kill Hitler? Hitler is evil incarnate, right? So that's one thing. Two, and I think it's the much more important subject here, that we have a growing population in the United States of America that has such a disregard for the sanctity of life.
Yes.
That even when we see life taken before our very eyes, they don't care. And that frightens me greatly as to where we're going as a society. And that's all about, and that has nothing to do with government, has a lot to do with church. A lot to do with church.
And I think in the coming episodes, we should probably, talk about some of those cultural anchors that are weak or they're broken right now, because I'm concerned that we are broken, that we are not in a good place. And I looked at this in a historical context of, we have seen great political violence. Like, we know what that looks like in America. But I think one of the things that we haven't talked about enough is we forget. Like, human history, it kind of washes past us. And if you haven't seen abject political violence, like even stuff like 9/11, we just celebrated the anniversary and like the atrocity that was and how we came together as a nation. Like, none of my kids That's like something they read in the history books. They have no context for what it's like to feel that vulnerable and feel that attacked because of who you are, right? And so I think that's where we are as a nation, that the civil rights era is history. 9/11, history. The American Revolution, ancient history. All of the things that have been the horrific result of deciding that political violence is our tool, well, we've forgotten a lot of what that cost actually is, and now we're kind of trying to toy with it.
I will say one, and I know we've got to get to your word, but I'll say one more thing about this. And I am guilty of the word that I just used when I do this, whataboutism. But when we've seen moments of political violence in our history, when we see moments of civil unrest in our history, I noticed in this moment in time, and I'll just leave it for what it is. When, MLK got shot, there were riots in the streets, sadly. Robert F. Kennedy, there was civil unrest. More to the 21st century, George Floyd. I mean, there were 31 people got killed in the aftermath of George Floyd dying. I didn't see any riots. I didn't see any burning. I didn't see any looting after Charlie Kirk died. You know what I did see? I saw a lot of prayer vigils.
Mm-hmm.
I saw a lot of praying. I saw a lot of people trying to get back to church and back to God. And if there's any small flicker of a silver lining, I think that might be it. What's your word, sir?
One.
One?
One.
Yes, you have one word.
Yes,
That's correct.
One is the loneliest number. It's also the number of signatures needed on the Ro Khanna Thomas Massie discharge petition about the Epstein files. I am so tired of talking about the Epstein files. This, to me, is one of the greatest failures of the Trump administration to do what it says across the board. I can't think of another issue where there were so very clearly, we're going to get to the bottom of this, we're going to be transparent, we're going to let you know, and then did a 180 and then said, the president himself, he's not immune from this, said, if you support this discharge petition to release all these files, that is a hostile act towards me. That is him, in no uncertain terms, telling Republicans, I'll step on you. And I have a history of Republicans I don't like, they don't keep their jobs. And so there are, I believe, 4. It's Thomas Massie, Marjorie Taylor Greene, Lauren Boebert.
Anna Luna Polina, I thought.
I don't know if she's on it. I think Nancy Mace is the other one.
Okay, maybe. Yeah, Nancy Mace is definitely in there, yeah.
And so they're the ones, and they actually like Trump a lot. And they've said, we said we'd do this, we're on this. And then the rest of their colleagues have said, nope, we're scared. And that, to me, is, we need to put this issue behind us. It is not a hoax. It's a thing. We need to just say, hey, here's the files, here's the thing. If some people get embarrassed, who cares?
Have you heard, you keep your ear to the, to the speaker, so to speak. I mean, have you heard of a legitimate reason why they wouldn't release this information?
No. Everything is an excuse. The things that Speaker Johnson has said is, well, look, we are doing this at the Oversight Committee. We released 33,000 pages. Well, that's hand-waving, because a lot of this stuff was already public. It was already out there. It's just consolidated, and then they did it. Again, why? Why would you oppose this? And there's never been a coherent, good answer, and that's why it's an issue for Democrats. And so my point is, you promise transparency, give the people transparency. This is not a close issue. Like, this is like an 80-20 that actually cuts towards transparency. And right now, Democrats are coming across as transparent because they want the transparency, and Republicans are like, well, we don't care. As long, if Trump says it's hostile to him, we won't do it.
Right, and they're not honest actors in any of this. They had 4 years. They didn't deal with it.
Right,
4 years of the Biden administration. Right. I mean, they didn't touch it. But oddly, and I would say this, oddly, the Republicans did not either during that period of time. Oddly, or maybe not so oddly, and then Trump campaigns on it. Trump seizes on a lot of the people that are in public life, like Dan Bongino and Kash Patel, to be a part of his administration, who had very publicly said, boy, oh boy, if I was there, it would be released tomorrow. if I were there, that black book, that's on the FBI director's desk. And I'm like, well, and he was asked about that, and he said, no, that information's already been released. So I do think that a lot of the perceived information in the Epstein files was fabricated in our own minds.
Yes, of course.
I think much of it was a fabrication of the gossip mill.
Yes.
That we decided, obviously Epstein was the worst of the worst.
Yeah.
He did the worst of the worst. Anybody associated with him should be thrown under the jail. But in an absence of information came speculation. And so we decided to create what we believed to be the narrative about what was in the quote-unquote files. And a lot of that just isn't there. Well, then tell us that too. Why wouldn't you release everything and say, look, what you are seeing is the information in its totality, and this is all we got?
And that is why we're having this conversation repeatedly, because it seems so obvious that if it is indeed, I agree with you. I think there's a lot of nothing burger, to this other than you had a horrible human trafficker and his associates that were trafficking and they were prosecuted, and that's the thing. Well, okay, cool. Let us see what's there for ourselves. If there's nothing there, it's boring. That'll be fine. And the reticence to do that is giving the issue to Democrats. It's not actually the discharge petition that's giving it to Democrats. It's not being transparent, and we need to be honest about that.
And unfortunately, the unforced error is going to carry over into the midterms if they let it.
Mm-hmm.
And no midterm convention is going to change that, although I love the idea of a midterm. Have you heard about this?
A midterm convention?
Yeah. I don't mean to submarine the episode right at the end of your word, but the Republicans are having a midterm convention. I love Donald Trump. I think he's so good, but he thinks these conventions are good for Republicans. I think he might be right. And so he decided, well, why can't we have one now? Let's just have one in the midterms. And so they're having a midterm convention. But that's not going to matter if you don't fulfill some basic campaign promises. And this is one that the people are not forgetting. And sadly, the longer it takes you to get it done, the more dug in certain aspects of your own political party become that there's a huge cover-up going on.
And the base, Trump's base, is very concerned about the uniparty. And if they tell themselves, well, look, he promised transparency, but it's just all the same. It's all the same. Then they don't turn out. He's in big trouble, and so are Republicans.
How are the Nolensville Knights doing this season so far?
They played Blackman, and Blackman, they were really good. They were, buddy. It was like ripping the wings off a fly.
I have it on good authority that in a future episode, football might be a subject of conversation.
Yeah. Kickers, man. Kickers.
Maybe next time. That's going to do it for this episode of All the Best Words. All of you Tennessee Vol fans have been saved. He's Cameron Smith.
He's Matt Murphy.
We'll see you next time. Like, subscribe, do all the things.